Okay. Hi, everyone. Hello, Matt.
G'day, Nitin. How are you, mate?
Good, good. Hello, Rob.
Hi, Nitin. Lovely to be with you again in Chennai.
Yes, such a wonderful communion.
Yes.
Yes. So we are on the way to Mahabalipuram, which is one of the most profound places to visit, profound temples to visit. It's perhaps one of the oldest ones in the Indian history. But on the way to Mahabalipuram, we thought we will do a podcast. And I thought, Rob, it would be wonderful to speak about the whole idea of methodology and why do we need a methodology, because a lot of times we hear people speaking that it doesn't matter what methodology you use, what matters at the end of the day is results, what matters is that things work out or things work. And I think it's delusional. I think one needs to help people understand that why a methodology is important, but maybe starting off with the idea of what is a methodology, why, and then coming to why it matters. What is a methodology, Rob, according to you?
Well, a methodology is a philosophy. It's nearly the same word in a sense, except the outcome of a philosophy doesn't normally result in a method. The reason why the word methodology is good is it has the word method built into it. But anything that is an ology, it doesn't matter whether you're studying crimes, criminology, or physiology, or biology. If you hear the ology in the end, it's essentially philosophy. So methodology is the philosophy of method. There's a lot of confusion around that because I hear so many people in their language think that the word methodology is actually the word method, and it's not. They're two clearly distinctive things. We can have a method, which is the strategy and action by which we do something, and we can have the methodology, which is the philosophy that drives the method by which we do things. So, the methodology is essentially the beliefs, the values, the ideas, the ontology, the often hidden assumptions that we make, and it's from those things that a person's action makes sense. And there's also another thing here, which is there's often, whenever there's incongruence between a method and a methodology, sometimes you can trace backwards from the method and find what their real philosophy is. I'll give you one example. The method of utilitarianism is the method of treating people as a utility, as something to be used. And so I see a lot of people using other people for some advantage or for some gain. They treat people like objects, and their philosophy is actually a philosophy of utility. In what way can you be used? I often see it in business where people will befriend someone else, not because they actually like them, but because they can use them for an outcome for themselves. And that's the philosophy of utilitarianism. And so the philosophy of utility you can often see in a person's method, and then you say to them, oh, that's a utilitarian idea, it's backed by a utilitarian philosophy. They actually don't even know what you're talking about. In the risk and safety world, that's actually a huge problem, because in that world, in that industry, there is no desire or interest in philosophy at all. It's like, if you speak philosophy, then I'm not interested in what you say. I just want to see you do safety activities, so checklists and policing regulation.
Yes. It's a very interesting thing you say, Rob, because I think maybe this is where the idea of incongruence comes in, because you say one thing and you do another thing. You say to people that you care about people, but your actions actually say something completely different.
Yes.
Which is, what I care about is money, what I care about is objects, what I care about is profits.
Production.
Yes, and
Yeah.
production. I think this is where it is so important that, and I think a lot of people may not clearly, and this is also something important. So, do you think that people are aware of their methodology, Rob?
Oh no. I remember when I first met Matt, um, I said to him, Matt, can you articulate your ontology, right? And I think he thought ontology was a brand of toothbrush. He'd never heard the word before. And now, whenever I talk to Matt, he knows what it means, and he knows and can now hear from his life experience what people are saying. Often I call it double speak as well. I mean, philosophy. But if you were to say to the average safety person, can you explain your philosophy or what you believe in? They actually can't. They don't know.
Rob, I think it's you touched upon something very powerful here, which is the idea of pragmatism. And I think this is something that is on the minds of everyone. That who cares about the methodology? Who cares about the philosophy?
Yes.
At the end, what matters is producing results.
Yes.
Perhaps say something more about this whole idea of pragmatism. I think it's an important one.
Well, the end justifies the means, which is the utilitarian approach. The pragmatic person says, well, it doesn't really matter what I do as long as I get the outcome that I want. And so I find often it's driven, particularly in risk and safety, by statistics. So as long as I get the data that I can parade around in front of someone, it doesn't really matter what happens on the way to that end. That's a very, very, that's a very dangerous philosophy. I guess another thing I'd like to say about methodology and ontology is you can't have a methodology or a theory of being without also having a very clear ethic. And an ethic is the outworking of a moral philosophy. So, all these things are interconnected. And when I see people belittling other people, when I see them demonizing other people, dehumanizing other people, particularly in risk and safety, that's a particular philosophy, and people might say, oh, that's dishonest, or this is fake, or this is fraudulent. There's also a philosophy hidden behind that, and that's pragmatism is behind that. It doesn't matter if I humiliate you. It doesn't matter if I criticize you. As long as I get the outcome I want, which is, zero LTIs, then it's all justified. It's all fine. And that is actually anti-ethical.
But how about this, Rob? Pragmatism combined with a very, very ethical purpose. How would you see that? So, for example, I I know what my purpose is, which is to care for people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next step is now look for methods and tools that actually work. How
Yes.
would you see that?
Yes, well, I don't see it in the risk and safety industry. I certainly see it in medicine and care professions. I see it with nurses. Doctors, teachers, social workers. You do see people who do contradict that, but in general, those professions are caring professions, and they seek methods that demonstrate a philosophy of caring. And there is an ethical system called care ethics. Now, if you study those professions, you will have very early in their study, as you're getting your qualifications, you'll be exposed to the philosophy of care ethics. And it's very, very clear, and I know that to be so, that in those degrees when you study to be a nurse or a social worker or a school teacher, you get that exposure to care ethics because it's foundational to methods of care. That does not exist in the risk and safety industry. There is no exposure at all to care ethics. In fact, the risk and safety industry is based on Kantian ethics, which has its own philosophy, which is very much based upon the idea of what they call natural theology or natural truth, and that's their ontology is the idea that my commitment in life is to duty, and I know my duty from higher above through a natural order of things, and all I have to do to be an ethical, moral person is to give obedience and duty to those in power. And it doesn't matter if the powerful are corrupt. The system and the methodology that drives Kantian ethics and Kantian philosophy dominates risk and safety, absolutely. But the only trouble is risk and safety doesn't know that that's their methodology.
And that's again very powerful, because when you read incident investigations, or you read risk assessments, or you see audit reports, and one of the things that frustrates people is that why do you stop at establishing that a rule has been breached or the procedure has not been followed, and why not dig beyond that? And I think many people don't realize that precisely what you said, when the ethics is all about deontology and about conforming with natural rules and natural laws, then there is no questioning left after that.
No.
Because the next step could be that somebody was being bullied, or somebody was being harassed, or somebody was being molested.
Yes.
But those things are not important.
No.
Because they
that's right.
don't form part of the worldview.
No, the duty is not to people.
No.
In safety, the duty is to safety.
Or to the system.
Or to the system.
Yes.
Or to the regulation. So that's what deontological ethics is like as well.
And so my point...
And we also use...
Sorry.
Just one more thing.
Yeah, please.
I hear we use the word common sense. That's the same language they use for everyone should know who the authority is, and that's natural law. That's natural Kantian ethics.
Yes.
And it's used to justify all sorts of wrong things.
Correct.
Oh,
correct.
Yeah.
And I think, Rob, the reason why I brought up the idea of combining pragmatism with a strong ethic, with a strong purpose, is that not everyone is an academic, right? Not everyone has the depth of understanding.
No.
But if people develop, or people are able to articulate their ethic well, people understand that they have a disposition towards listening more than judging, towards understanding the other person more than putting them under pressure, then I think having a method is secondary to that. You could look for methods that are consistent with that ethic.
Oh, you could, yes.
And that, I think, is a very, very important point to make here, because a lot of people get very scared that you come to transdisciplinary thinking and then you have to read 20 books before you can even get started.
Yes.
I think that's a misconception. What we are trying to say here is that, or what you are trying to say here is that the most important thing is to develop, to see another human being as a full human person.
Yes.
And to meet that person where he or she is.
Right. That's right.
And then everything else follows from there.
Well, it should.
It should, yes.
Yes, you're right. It's even funny. Apart from myself, where I actually teach courses and raise the idea of ethics, you can't find anyone anywhere in the risk and safety world who teaches ethics. That doesn't exist. And if you ask some of these people who are quite dominant in their theories in safety what their ethic is, they can't tell you.
No, and I think what people say when they say ethics don't matter, or what they actually mean is that I think it's mostly dismissive of the idea that somebody has taken so much time, so much effort to study all this. But it also means something else, Rob, which is that I'm not able to articulate it, so it doesn't exist.
Yes.
So it goes back to the Indian mythology, where the pigeon sees the cat and the pigeon closes its eyes, thinking that the cat will disappear. But the cat is still there. So whether you like it or not, there is something sitting in you. And in the Indian myth, we say that there are three goddesses. Well, actually there are more, but there are three goddesses. One is the Saraswati, the other one is the Durga, and the third one is the Saraswati, the Durga, and the Lakshmi. So the Lakshmi is all about money and power and progression. The Durga is all about power, and the Saraswati is all about wisdom. Yes. So even if you see on LinkedIn today, there are people who would start a conversation by saying, I'm so humble to say this, and I'm so humble to say that. But what they're saying is precisely Durga, which is, that word humble has been taken completely out of proportion.
Yes.
And it's all egocentric. and it's all about power and progression and
The
this.
power given to me.
That's right. You know, the conspicuous show off of the authority,
Yes.
right? And then you have the goddess Lakshmi, which is all about money, which is all about wealth, which is, you know, what is my package? What is my package? You know,
Yes.
the moment you want to get a new job, what's my package? What's on offer?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's their ontology. That's their,
Yes, yes.
and then you have the goddess Saraswati, which sits right on your tongue actually, which is wisdom,
Yes.
which is wisdom, which is
Yes.
how you speak.
Yes.
And I think that's very, very powerful, because once you get Saraswati, there is a chance that you will get both Durga and Lakshmi. Yeah.
Yes.
But once Durga sits in you and you become so drawn to power, you soon find yourself in a very, very
Oh.
miserable place after a
Well-
little while, because all you care about is power and you have no relationships.
They
And
don't know it at the time, though. I find it so interesting because in a platform like LinkedIn, I had to get off it because I find the whole of LinkedIn completely toxic. But a lot of people don't know they're actually harming themselves in the process. A lot of talk about success.
Wind it off when I gave the analogy of the Saraswati, the Durga, and the
Yeah.
Lakshmi. My point really was that whether you like it or not, we all have a methodology. We
Yes.
all have a philosophy in life.
Yes.
The only problem is you're not able to articulate it.
Yeah.
And because you're not able to articulate it, you actually confuse people with your messages.
Yeah.
You say one thing, you do another
Yeah.
thing, and people develop a mistrust for you. So what you're running away from by saying that there is no such thing like methodology or it does not count is
Or
the
philosophy is not important.
the only thing you're running away from is the ability to articulate what you really believe in. And if you
Yeah,
think you
yes.
don't believe in anything, then I think it's a very dangerous place to live, be in.
Oh, yes. And I'm glad, can I just, a little
Yeah, of
minute
course you
more.
can, yes.
You raised these three gods or these three energies. I find it absolutely fascinating when I see people, their only god is themselves, or their only god is money. And then they laugh at someone else for talking about gods. And, but I've got a secular god. And no concept at all that their strength and their power of worship is, I'd rather go to a temple and watch people worshipping
Because when you live a brain-centric life, when you live life on top of your shoulders, all you care about is being rational and logical. It doesn't matter whether you connect with yourself or not. And therein lies a problem,
Yes.
that you may be very consistent in the way you come across in those 20 minutes, but you go back home and somebody else becomes the victim of that.
Yes.
And I think that's where you become neurotic, psychotic. You live that split personality where you're so consistent in your message, but when it comes to treating other people in the way you say, it's just the opposite.
It's the opposite, yes, yes. I think that's probably a good way to stop.
I think so,
Yeah, thank
isn't
you.
it? Yes, great. Vilash, you want to say something?
I found this conversation really helpful. It opened up a lot of things. Methodology, thought it was just a part of a method, but it's a very different concept from what I was thinking. So it really opened my eyes
Oh,
on
good.
a new
That's very good.
perspective on seeing things and how things are done and what are the ethics and purpose behind the things. Yes, it was really helpful. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. That's really nice when somebody who has so far away from philosophy can connect with it.
Yeah, yeah.
It really goes to show that you have a consistent message.
Well-
And why do we have a consistent message? Because we have a methodology to live by.
that's
we have a
right.
myth
That's
to live
right.
by, isn't
That's
it?
right.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.